Now, one thing that's important to note here is that capitalization is important. So if you, for example, had a lowercase f here, where there's the capital FR, you would get an error if you had a lowercase f here, and vice versa. So it's very important that whatever you put here is whatever is here, because it's case sensitive, and if you're naming them two different things, ActionScript does not know that you mean them to be the same thing. So just make sure that you're double checking your code to make sure that you don't have any typos or errors in there. Frame 5. So what we're going to do now is test this. Okay, so now when we click Start, if we choose Clothing, we should be able to click on this and have it go back. And it's not working. So let's take a look and see. This is actually a really good thing when this happens, when something doesn't work, because then once you understand what it is that went wrong, you can figure out how to fix it. So in order to be able to go back, we've created this back button on the clothing layer. And again, we imported all of these wrapper imports. Clothing back, we added the event listener, and basically the function we've given is just choose again. We want them to be able to choose it again and go to the selection screen, which is on frame 5. So let's test that. And so we click Start, we click Clothing, and we're on the clothing. We decide we want to choose a different category. We can click back and come back to this screen. And we can copy all that code, and let's view the timeline and go to, say, the food layer, and we'll paste that code in, and we'll go to the conversation layer and paste that code in. Okay, so let's go choose the food frame, for example. Okay, so now we have to rename this button to the food back. And also here. Now, first I want you to show you what happens if we leave it at that. So I'm going to show you what happens, because it's always interesting to see when you do something wrong, what happens. So look how it's just cycling like crazy through our file. The reason that's happening, I'm going to do this before I have an epileptic fit, exit out of that. But the reason that happened was because there's some problem in the code. So let's click here, and it tells us that if you look at the compiler errors, it says Scene 1, Layer Clothing, Frame 15, Line 12, Column 10. So one of the things that Flash is really great about is telling you exactly where you can find the error in your code. So if you were to double click on that, it'll highlight in the code the error that's incorrect. So the reason this is giving an error right now is because we've already defined this function of choose again when we are on the this is the original function, and we've tried to call it again from the food one. So we could just give this, append a number to the back of this function, and it's going to work just fine. So this is the, this will make that a unique function name, and we'll do the same thing here. We'll just add a 2 to that function on this one. So now if we run this, you'll see we won't see that error. Yep. So now it displays no problems, no crazy flashing that's going to end us up in the hospital. So this is the hello button. So we want to change it there, and we also want to change it here, because this is the button mode that's going to be applied to that button. And so for the function, what we're going to do is call this hello French, because we want it to show the French version, the French translation of hello. And instead of we don't want it to play anything, right? What we want to do is call this dynamic text box and have it display a string, which is the French translation. So this is the dynamic text box is called French text. So inside this function, what we want to do is say French text equals .text equals, and then the string here, because we're saying this dynamic text box with that instance name is going to display this. So we know that the French version is bonjour. So let's try that out and see how that works. Okay. Now it doesn't like something about this. So let's take a look at the code and see if we can figure out what's going on here. Okay. In conversation, line 20, incompatible override. Oh, here it is. I forgot FR. See how important that is to make sure that you include everything? All right, and duplicate function definition. So, yeah, so there we go. So that works. So let's see if that was it. Hopefully that was the only error. Yep, okay. So usually it's an easy fix. You just have to take the time to do it right the first time or have the patience to go back and fix it later.